On our newscast tonight, the Korean government follows through on its promise to support small and mid-sized companies and innovative startups. It set aside $92 billion for that purpose. And Korea's central bank again keeps its key rate unchanged at a historic low of 2% as government focuses on structural reforms. And the Yemeni branch of Al-Qaeda says it was behind the Charlie Hebdo attack and that they planned it for years. Meanwhile, French authorities arrest 54 people not linked to the attack for apparently glorifying terrorism by sharing their views. We have these and more coming up. An early edition at 6. It's 6 p.m. on a Thursday here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Daniel Choi.
And I'm Hwang Jie. Thanks for tuning in.
Korea's economy-related ministries and agencies presented their action plans for this year to President Park Geun-hye.
Right. Their pledge to support the country's SMEs and startups with needed funds and so-called creative economy centers. Song Ji-sun has the details.
Innovation and entrepreneurship are the keywords for 2015. 5 government ministries and organizations in charge of science, technologies, and industries put together a blueprint on Thursday to turn Korea into a vibrant creative economy. The Ministry of Science, ICT and Future Planning, the Trade Ministry, the Small and Medium Business Administration, and the nation's finance and communications regulators all vowed to follow up with action plans to promote entrepreneurship needed to turn ideas into businesses.
We'll create a dynamic economy where creativity thrives and new businesses are born and grow. The first step is to set up an organic ecosystem conducive to an innovative economy.
One of the government's top projects this year is setting up innovative creative economy centers in 17 industrial sites by June. Each center will specialize in one specific industry based on the strength and characteristics of the local area. One-stop services will be provided at these centers for startups seeking funds, partners, distribution channels, and clients. Seoul is also seeking to make better use of its free trade agreements with other countries to boost growth. The government wants to help companies, especially small and medium-sized businesses, make better use of recently agreed free trade deals, and in particular, the one with China. Seoul will launch a consolidated information platform and set up a China desk, a one-stop service for exporters seeking advice on expanding their outbound shipments. The government is aiming to lock $600 billion in exports and attract $20 billion in foreign direct investment this year, to become an FTA hub and business center for the East Asia region. The government is vying to make collaborative efforts across its ministry so that the Korean economy can take another leap forward this year. If things work out as policymakers plan, ordinary Koreans will feel their society is more innovative and that their lives are getting better by the end of this year. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Also included in the plan laid out by the government is an injection of 100 trillion won, or roughly $92 billion for this year, aimed at fostering new growth engines. Our Lee Ji-yoon has more.
A total of $166 billion will be poured into establishing a so-called vibrant creative economy this year. More than half of those funds, $92 billion to be exact, will be used to foster innovative startups and small and mid-sized firms. To make sure that bright ideas don't go to waste, the money will support the startups from beginning to end by offering financial tips and funds. Securities firms specializing in mergers and acquisitions between small and medium-sized businesses and venture companies will be developed, and startups that are deemed to have strong solvency will be exempt from joint liability payments. By region, a creative economy valley with a focus on boosting the gaming industry will be established at Pangyo Techno Valley on the outskirts of Seoul. Additional infrastructure will be built to attract more information and communications technology-oriented businesses and talent. In Seoul, what's being called a high-tech startup campus will be set up on Taeran Street, one of the capital's busiest business districts. Some 160 angel investment groups and startup teams will settle into the 10,000 square meter campus by 2017. They will each be given up to $920 million over 3 years to use for research and development. The government also says it will put a heavy emphasis on getting a share of the global biotechnology market, as well as the climate and energy sectors. This, the government says, will be done by helping some 2,400 domestic-focused firms transform themselves into export-oriented companies. Lee Ji-yoon, Arirang News.
Rival party leaders and floor leaders gathered for the first time this year and agreed to launch a special committee on political reform. The committee will have its first meeting next month and will deal with drawing Korea's electoral districts. The Constitutional Court ordered lawmakers to redraw the districts by the end of this year, as some legislators had far larger constituencies than others. Lawmakers also agreed to pass a long-pending anti-corruption bill that would punish all public officials who receive money or valuables worth more than roughly $900 from outside interest groups. But party leaders failed to advance talks on forming a special committee to deal with revising the Constitution. A group of Korean lawmakers is currently halfway through a 3-day trip in Japan. The focal point of their time there comes today as they hold talks with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and deliver a message from President Park Geun-hye herself. Our Hwang Sang-hee reports.
A South Korean parliamentary delegation will meet with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Tokyo on Thursday afternoon in the hope of thawing the two countries' frosty relations. 9 lawmakers, led by the ruling Saenuri Party Supreme Council member Seo Chung-won, are currently on a 3-day visit to Japan. During his meeting with Abe, Seo is expected to deliver a message from President Park Geun-hye in person, which will include a New Year's greeting and detail her hopes for improved ties. The message could also include calls for a shift in Japan's perception of history and the need to resolve Tokyo's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. President Park had laid these out as preconditions for a summit during her New Year's press conference.
위안부 피해자 할머니들의 경우에는 그분들이 연세가 상당히 높으셔서 이게 조기에 어떤 그 해결책이 나오지 않으면은 영구 미제로 빠질 수가 있다.
The South Korean leader has been adamant that she will not meet one-on-one with Abe until he apologizes for Tokyo's wartime atrocities. In a meeting on Wednesday, lawmakers from the two countries agreed to work on making a summit happen before June 22nd, which marks the 50th anniversary of their diplomatic ties. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party General Council Chairman Toshihiro Nikai is expected to lead a 1,000-member delegation to South Korea next month. The question now is whether the parliamentary diplomacy will be enough to break the ice between the two neighbors. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Moving on to some international news, the Republican-led House of Representatives has voted to block large portions of President Barack Obama's immigration policies. This includes Obama's recent executive actions and an earlier program that allowed immigrants who entered the U.S. illegally as children to stay in the country. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
A new clash between the House of Representatives and the White House has cast doubt over funding for the Department of Homeland Security. The U.S. House of Representatives has overturned President Obama's immigration legislation by passing 5 amendments attached to the Homeland Security budget. The department's funding is set to expire at the end of next month. The House voted for the legislation, which provides roughly $40 billion to fund the department for the rest of the year. This money will also go into strengthening border security and counterterrorism. To that legislation, the House attached amendments that will undo actions backed by an executive order issued by Obama in November, providing temporary deportation relief and offering work permits to some 4 million illegal immigrants. Another amendment that was passed will cancel legislation the Obama administration passed in 2012 that has provided work permits and deferred deportation actions for more than 600,000 immigrants who arrived in the U.S. illegally as children. The legislation will now be sent to the Senate, where Republicans, who have 54 seats, will have to gather a 60-vote majority to pass it. And even if the bill passes the Senate, the White House says the president will veto it. Democratic leaders say the Republican provisions will not only hurt immigrant families, but also hurt the Republican Party in the run-up to the 2016 presidential election. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula has claimed responsibility for the attack on the satirical French magazine Charlie Hebdo with great pride. And that announcement prompted France to arrest dozens of people who had defended last week's attacks. Arkani Kim reports.
The Yemeni branch of Al-Qaeda claims it was behind last week's deadly terror attack on the satirical French publication Charlie Hebdo. Appearing on a video posted online, the top commander of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, Nasser al-Ansi, said the killings were retaliation for the magazine's depictions of the Prophet Muhammad. He added the former leader of the Al-Qaeda group, Anwar al-Awlaki, had masterminded the attack years ago. Al-Awlaki was killed in a U.S. drone strike in 2011 and is known to have inspired jihadi militants in the U.S. and Britain. Washington has confirmed the video is authentic, but they're still looking into the claims made by Nasser al-Ansi. On the same day the video emerged, French President François Hollande announced France was dispatching its nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, Charles de Gaulle, to the Gulf to aid in global efforts to defeat Islamic State militants in Iraq.
Today, the situation in the Middle East justifies our aircraft carrier's presence. So thanks to the Charles de Gaulle, we will have precious intelligence.
Hollande added that if needed, French jets could conduct more operations in Iraq. France was the first country to join the U.S.-led airstrikes against IS militants. And back in France, authorities there arrested 54 people on Wednesday for defending last week's terror attacks. Comedian Dieudonné Mbala is one of the detained on potential charges of glorifying terrorism in a post he made on Facebook. The comedian and the other people that were arrested are not suspected of being involved in last week's attacks, raising questions about whether the French government is infringing on the freedom of speech. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Korea's central bank has cut its growth outlook for this year for the Korean economy to 3.4%, while keeping its key rate steady at 2% this month. Still, market expectations mount over another rate cut early this year. Shin Se-min has the details.
The Bank of Korea on Thursday cut its growth outlook for the Korean economy for this year by 0.5 percentage point to 3.4%. The central bank governor said that the downgrade is largely due to a weak economic performance in the fourth quarter of last year.
The sluggish fourth quarter growth came largely from a fall in government spending due to a lack of tax revenue.
The central bank also kept its key rate unchanged at 2% in January, continuing its wait-and-see approach for a third straight month. The decision comes as the government focuses on structural reforms to pull the economy out of its low-growth rut rather than short-term measures. Further lowering the key rate would also stoke concerns about snowballing household debt that already stands at roughly $920 billion. But market expectations are building over another rate cut sometime in February or March.
If the economy continues to perform below expectations, then there's a higher chance that the BOK will change its stance in setting the base rate.
The central bank, however, expects private spending to pick up gradually towards the end of this year, thanks to the falling global oil prices and the economic recovery in the U.S. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
6 out of 10 women in their 40s and 50s are now back in the working world here in Korea, and an improvement compared to the past. It may be a bit of good news for female workers, but looking closely into the numbers, there's room for improvement. Kim Ji-yeon tells why.
More women in their 40s and 50s are returning to the workforce. In fact, Statistics Korea says the employment rate for this group was at its highest in 16 years in December. The employment rate for women in their 40s stood at over 65%, up 0.6 percentage points from the same month the previous year. The employment rate for women in their 50s was near 61%. That means approximately 6 out of 10 middle-aged women in Korea have a job. This comes amid a drop in the employment rate for men in the same age group. Some say the increase in the female employment rate for this group should be viewed as somewhat positive, arguing the government's efforts to encourage companies to hire more flexible part-timers have borne fruit. A flexible part-timer is someone who works for the same pay and benefits as an employee engaged to work full-time, but works in the morning or afternoon for 4 hours a day. Others say things aren't as rosy as they look, saying the kinds of jobs these women have may not be of high quality and offer low job security and wages. They also point to a dismal economic situation that has prompted women to work because their households are facing an uncertain retirement because of a decrease in household income. Real wage increases have remained in the 0% range for 2 straight quarters, leading up to the July to September period of last year. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
Moving over to the tech realm, Samsung Electronics has released a smartphone in India that runs on its own Tizen operating system. The Z1 is the company's first non-Android powered smartphone. Equipped with a 4-inch display and a simplified user interface, the Z1 costs just over $90. Its release is seen as a big step forward as the company builds its own software ecosystem. Another Korean tech firm, LG Electronics, is releasing its latest G Flex 2 smartphone in its home country on January 30th. The G Flex 2 won high praise at this year's Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. It was the editor's choice by CES official partner Review.com and named by other media outlets as a top pick or staff pick. If you're a true blue K-pop fan, chances are you may already know about this place. One of Korea's largest talent agencies, SM Entertainment, has just opened a multicultural complex where you can get the ultimate K-pop experience. You can even watch holograms of your favorite artists singing and dancing right before your own eyes. Our Connie Lee gives us a look.
In Seoul's trendy Gangnam district, there's a new cultural complex where you can soak up the full K-pop experience. It's called SMtown at COEX Artium. Take a look inside. Built by one of Korea's biggest talent agencies, SM Entertainment, this 6-story multicultural space cost about $23 million. For the opening ceremony, K-pop stars like EXO, Girls' Generation, and Super Junior lined the red carpet, with the fans clearly excited to get even a brief glimpse of them. The center boasts some high-tech features like a touchscreen jukebox and items from SM artists themselves.
I believe it's time to show our content in a new way to the world, with our unique entertainment space.
And the highlight of this complex may be its state-of-the-art hologram stage, Korea's first. Called School Oz, this hologram musical premiered on Wednesday, starring SM artists on huge displays, covering the audience with 270 degrees of visuals.
There was a lot of preparation for this hologram musical. I had to put a lot more effort into how I acted, so it goes well with the hologram effects.
The complex is topped off with a souvenir shop, a cafe, and studios where you can actually make a music video or record an album. But if you're not ready for that yet, you can receive vocal training from actual SM staff members. Whether you're ready for the limelight or not, this new cultural complex is sure to attract the K-pop fans from all over the world to Korea. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
These days, with so many smartphones, smart screens, so much technology embedded in our lives, media art has become more relevant.
That's right. We have the new or the next Baeknamjoon in the making. And our Im Yun-hee helps us take a look at how media art is evolving and reaching into all aspects of our lives.
We live in an era where there are more television screens than people, more lights to illuminate the dark. So it's no surprise that the art community has responded, using today's technology to produce media art. And though we've progressed, one age-old feud has remained: the complicated political relationship between Korea, China, and Japan. But for many, art holds the ability to heal. And when paired with soft power, the idea of attracting and persuading relations rather than forcing, a beacon of hope is born. But how can a creation of the imagination lead to peace?
In the many genres of art, media art is an especially valuable and relevant tool for us to voice our opinions. This exhibition was put together by 3 curators and features the work of 10 artists from Korea, China and Japan. If you take a look at the works, you'll see that there's definitely a difference between the 3 countries. And while the subject matter may be similar, Chinese artists are very direct in delivery, while Japanese artists take a more abstract approach, and Korean artists sit somewhere in the middle. Artist Miao Xiaochung used computer graphics to make animations for his large projection screen piece. You'll notice there are Asian-themed images skillfully mixed with ideas from Western culture, the result of a fusion work coming from a very balanced point of view that suggests a new, positive image of Asia. In the 21st century, we are at a paradigm shift, and some recurring keywords are diversity, global mobility, and convergence. Media art is progressing at such a rapid pace and is spreading like wildfire throughout the world, so the gap between the artists and the audience is shrinking. In fact, the two are basically converging. Right now, we're seeing a lot of projector use, but later we might see more of OLED screens or even portable technology like smart pads, all of which can be used in media art. 3D printers are another big source of potential that will surely become more incorporated and open many doors to new possibilities. The Industrial Revolution originated in the West, but the digital age is being led by the East. The presence of so many technology facilities and plants in Korea and Japan means that digital media art won't be far, with many valuable opportunities to seize available here in Asia.
Im Yoon-hee, Arirang News.
Well, they say when it rains, it pours, but it's quite the opposite here in Korea. We had quite a lack of precipitation here, and now it looks like we're in for a serious drought.
That's right, and there are even places with a shortage of drinking water. For details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle?
Good evening, guys. With the dry weather alert that has been in effect for a month and the low amount of precipitation this winter, there are some regions experiencing a drought, and Gangwon province has only had 1% of its average precipitation, breaking a record that has been on the books since 1973. So let's try not to waste any water and make every drop count. Now, going back to the weather forecast, luckily we have rain or snow in the forecast for the rest of the week and next in certain places to help us with this drought. And tomorrow we'll have a nationwide rain and or snow, and temperatures dropping quite a bit, especially on Saturday morning, going down to -6 degrees. And with that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for tomorrow. So we'll start off the Friday morning at -2 and gets up to 4 in the afternoon, while Daegu and Busan will be higher at 8 and 11 degrees respectively. And moving over to other regions such as Jeju, will get up to 10, Dokdo hits down to 7, while Nangkeugang dips low to -3 degrees. Well, that's all for now, Michelle Park, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Michelle. And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thanks again for staying with us. Have a good rest of the evening. I'm Hwang Ji-hye.
And I'm Daniel Cho, wishing you a good day. If you're tuning in from different time zones, do join us again for more. Same time tomorrow.